So I wanted to do some more talking about blacksmithing tools. I feel that I wasn't very thorough when I was talking about tools to get started in blacksmithing. I gave you a pretty good overview of the tools you're going to use, but what I failed to realize at the time was that, if you're starting a new hobby, you're not going to go and buy all this stuff. You gotta make do for a while until you realize that it's a hobby that you enjoy. Then you go out and buy a real anvil and a real forge, or you go and spend the time to make a forge. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some tools that you can substitute with while you're getting into the hobby. Like a forge, for example. When I was a kid, when I first got into this hobby, when I was like, 11 years old or so, I just used a Weber kettle charcoal grill, and no forced air or anything, just as if I was barbecuing. Then we upgraded and used the exhaust out of a shop vacuum to blow some air into the coals, and that got them nice and hot, and we were able to do a little bit more forging and heat stuff up faster. That was a pretty nice improvement. Didn't have any anvils, and of course Craigslist and eBay and the internet weren't really that well utilized at the time. The internet maybe, but we didn't really use it, so we couldn't go on Craigslist and buy something or find something. So our first anvil was a piece of railroad track, and it worked pretty well, except it was loud as hell. So I don't remember how we dampened the noise, but railroad tracks do work pretty well for an anvil. And you can even, you can use an angle grinder to grind the surface flat. See a nice flat surface, instead of the slight crown that a track has. And if you have a cutting torch, you can cut a horn and grind the corners smooth and actually have a horn on a railroad track anvil. As for forges, I told you about my Weber charcoal grill forge. It really wasn't the best. I could have done better if I wanted to. You could use brake drums or brake discs, or rotors rather, and weld some legs on it. Weld some pipe onto the bottom to direct air from a blower, and you could use either coal or charcoal with that. It really depends on what you have and what skills you have and what's available to you. I've also seen, these are fire bricks. These are hard fire bricks, but there's also soft ones. They're very, they're not very dense at all, and you could cut into them pretty easily. And I've seen people where they cut a hole. Now that I'm looking at this brick, maybe they cut a groove in the brick, and then cut another groove and put it together so there's a hole in the middle, and then put a hole into one side and aim a propane torch in there, and that'll make a nice little forge. You can't make very much with it. If you're into knife smithing, that's perfect for knife smithing. You don't need lots of three-dimensional volume in there for bulky objects. If you're just working on straight making nails or whatever, that's all you need. I'm not going to tell you too much about that. I mean, honestly, you can go online. You could figure out how to make a good forge. I just want to let you know that there's a lot out there. There's a lot of different options out there. Be creative. Basically, all you need is some sort of fuel and a good supply of air. Because if you're using charcoal, coal, especially coal, you want a lot of air to let that coal burn so it doesn't just smolder. And if you're using coal, you want to use bituminous coal, soft coal. Anthracite is nice and hot and clean, but it doesn't burn very well in a forge. Or if you want to build something like this, you can. It's really not too difficult if you have the materials available to you. As for anvils, a piece of railroad track works really well. You could even use a chunk of metal. If you find a big, just a square block of metal from something, if you work in a machine shop or whatever, you find a block, you can weld a stud onto that block and nail that stud into a stump, and that'll be your anvil. It's just a flat, hard piece of metal to pound on. It's not fancy, but it'll work. I've used, when I was young, when I first got into this, I used a sledgehammer just set into the ground with the head of the hammer facing upwards, and I used the face of the hammer as an anvil. The face was only about that big, but it worked. Or if you work or know someone who works in the stone industry, or maybe they make gravestones, grave markers, I believe those are made out of granite. If you find yourself a block of granite, preferably with one nice smooth polished side, granite will actually make a really good anvil. It's very hard, it's very resilient, and it's actually not that brittle. Unless you like hit a corner, it won't chip. It actually works really well. I believe those Belgian blocks, it's like a brick shape, but it's made out of, it's a gray granite called Belgian block. I believe that's granite. They're not too flat, but if you find one with a flat surface, that'll work. I think I used one of those for a while. And as for tongs and everything, of course, vice grips work fine, pliers work fine, or the best is just to use a piece of material long enough you can hold on to it with your hand. Hammers, you know, you could use whatever hammer you want. I would advise against a claw hammer. They're really not meant to do that kind of work. They have a very small face. But any sort of mini sledgehammer, stone working hammer, ball peen hammer, they all work fine. And of course, vices, you could just use a bench vise. Just don't beat on it too much. I think that about covers it. Those are the basic tools: the heat, what to hit it with, and what to hit it on. So if you're stuck, you know, leave a comment, leave a message. If you want some, if you want a piece of advice or what I think about your idea or your setup, and just, you know, check out other videos on YouTube and Google it, or get a couple bucks. Wayne Goddard's $50 Knife Shop. He covers a lot of good stuff, a lot of good techniques for cheap blacksmithing. It's called the $50 Knife Shop, so you're not going to put that much money into it. That's about it. So leave a question, leave a comment, and if I think of anything else that might help you guys get started, I will let you know. But for the time being, hope you had a good Christmas and Happy New Year. And show me what you come up with. Put a video up. Respond to this video with a video comment. Show me what you make, what you've done. And keep in mind, you can win. If you watch my hook video, you can win this hook if you show me a video of what you make with your blacksmithing shop. So, that's about it. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment, leave a suggestion. And if you like this video, please support me, give it a thumbs up. And as always, thanks for watching. Come back for more.